African women are making history in professional sports, but for some, the success is not without controversy, and the competition doesn't always end on the field, whether it's in boardrooms that determine pay or in courtrooms that rule on women with high testosterone levels. These conversations around the experience of women in sports have dominated the conversation. Today on Our Voices, we go beyond the headlines and talk about how African women are perceived and treated on and off the field. Hello there and welcome to the conversation. I'm Ayen Bior with my colleagues Haiti Adams-Fitzpatrick, Ariane Itangi-Shaka, and Hadiza Kiari.
With every triumph is a hurdle that women have to overcome: gender discrimination. Later in the program, we'll talk about Nigeria's Women's FIFA World Cup team. They're facing two fights on the field. They will compete for the Women's World Cup and off the field fight for equal pay.
But we begin with a story of South African Olympic runner Caster Semenya. She first gained global attention in 2009 when she won the women's 800-meter race at the World Championships in Berlin, Germany. But even before that race, there were questions in the athletics world about Semenya's gender, that she appeared too masculine, some also pointing to her astoundingly quick performance. Following Semenya's win in Berlin, she was subjected to a battery of gender tests by the International Association of Athletics Federations to determine whether she could compete internationally as a woman. At the heart of this gender row are Semenya's naturally high testosterone levels. It's triggered a global debate about what's fair to whom and whether Semenya is being targeted because she is an African woman.
So in May, sport's highest court, the Court of Arbitration, decided that Semenya would have to undergo medication in order to lower her testosterone levels, and not just her, but also other women with high testosterone levels.
She will have to take some medication to be able to go below this testosterone level. There is a threshold in the rules. This threshold may still be changed, still be adapted by the IAAF. This is something that they have to decide. But it's true for these athletes like Miss Semenya, they will have some medical consequences, which is the taking of contraceptives. I can say this decision is certainly not the perfect one, but is there a perfect decision in this situation? Another possibility, the IAAF could have created a third category for athletes having this biological profile. It decided to try to incorporate all these athletes in one female classification and try to find a proper way to solve this issue.
And this provokes a simple question with a complicated answer. Is the ruling on Semenya fair?
I honestly think it's fair, especially to other women, just because she physically looks like a man and she's got high level of testosterone that are consistent with men.
I mean, I think, I want to believe that the International Association of Athletes have regulations that should be able to mitigate these things because, we have, like as you said, when I was looking up this testosterone situation to see exactly what they mean, and I'm realizing that for men, testosterone level is between 280 to 1,100 nanograms. And then when you look at women, they're saying it's only between 15 and 70 nanograms. So the difference is very large. So whether it's fair or not that, she was, disqualified, I really can't say.
Well, Thomas Bach, the International Olympic Committee president, weighed in during a press conference. Here's what he had to say.
First of all, I must say I have a lot of sympathy for Caster Semenya being in this position. And having said this, the issue as such is extremely complex. It has, a scientific impact. It has an ethical impact. It has the impact of fair play there in the competition. So it's extremely delicate and extremely difficult to do justice to all these good reasons.
Margaret Nyerere Wambui, a Kenyan Olympian and 800-meter bronze medal holder who is directly impacted by this, disagrees. She, along with Semenya, is one of several female athletes who may have to lower their testosterone level in order to compete. Here's what she had to say about that.
For me, I'm not going to take medication because I'm not sick. And even if to tell us now to take the medication, those are chemicals that you are putting on your body, of which you don't know at the end of it what will come to affect you later. Okay, we can take just for the competition. At the end, this is not the end of it. We still have long life after the athletics.
Wambui also points out gender discrimination. Here's what she says.
In men, everybody has got testosterone, and when you have got high level of it in men category, you are likely maybe to perform well, and we celebrate that. But when it comes to women, we have to tell them to lower it, and we throw them out of competition. Why?
So Wambui is saying that the rules are different from women compared to the men, but Bach is saying that it's all about fairness. What's your take?
Well, you know, all I see is here is a naturally gifted female athlete being asked to suppress her natural body chemistry so that she doesn't win as easily. And I think that's a big part of the question. Are there any cases of men being asked to do that? And that's where I think I sort of agree, and I see the point, Wambui's point there, that the rules of the game are not fair here.
You know, I feel like if I was a female competitor, I would definitely be intimidated by that lady. She's physically a man in my eyes. And at the same time, you know, I'm going to feel like I stand no chance whatsoever.
Yeah, I think it's a complex situation, really, and just to be put in her situation, Semenya's situation, as well as one of her runner counterpart, Nyon Saba Francine, who's from my country. It's a tough situation to be put in a situation where you're told that you cannot compete in a certain category. Nonetheless, athletes like Semenya, with their intersex condition, is the key subject here. I think that it's really the discussion of being unfair, having an unfair advantage should be really looked at, because we have running mates in Turkey who once said, recently actually, she says, this is Lupu Natalia from Ukraine. She says, I think that we need to separate events for them and for us. She also adds by saying, you can see that it's easy for them. So they're feeling already intimidated by, you know, hearing the fact that they might have more testosterone, hearing the fact that, you know, that they might have these unfair advantages. So I can understand their part as well,
right,
as running mates.
But what about other athletes with biological differences? I mean, look at Michael Phelps. We celebrate him because his body is built differently. He's been compared to a fish. They've said that he swims like a fish because his torso is long. He has a huge wingspan, but he produces less lactic acid than his competitors. And people say that because he does that, it gives him an edge, it gives him an advantage. But we don't discriminate against him. We celebrate him.
We haven't heard from his swimming mates.
I covered the story in 2009 when Caster Semenya came home to what was supposed to be a highlight of her career. She was thrust into the spotlight. It was humiliating for her. I saw that firsthand, what she had to go through. Her mother, as we were covering the story, her mother said something very simply. She asked, why have they allowed her to compete all these years as a woman? But it's when she started winning that the question around her gender began to surface. So the question is, as long as you don't win, is it okay for your testosterone levels to be higher than others? Did her mother
mention if she's always been winning as far as when she was a kid? Has she always been winning?
Yes, she has. She won the African Junior Championships. You don't get to that level without having won significant amount of races before. And Caster Semenya hasn't always won, even on the international stage. And that's where there's a bit of science that's very inconclusive about whether testosterone really does have the effect we might think in elite performance. You know, people who have high testosterone don't always win, and the winners don't always have high testosterone.
I feel like the regulatory bodies need to pretty much test everyone,
think it's
everyone's
both, yeah.
testosterone level.
All right,
And then-
ladies,
Right.
we asked our social media followers to weigh in, and here's what some of them had to say. Adol Anyuat II says, high testosterone isn't a disease. Why alter the nature? My answer is a big no. This is not fair to Semenya. Vince Saylor says, only those with male chromosomes and high testosterone levels are required to reduce them. All sports must draw a defining line to separate men from women, or else women's sports will be ruined. And then Kalia Satuma says, it wouldn't be like this if Semenya was white. But because she's African, she's subjected to this nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like what the second viewer point is to that we should have a line where we define men and women, and I think the regulatory bodies have that responsibility so that the women in the competition don't feel like they're competing against something else.
I'm sorry, let me just say, the leading scientists have said that it is really hard to determine a male from a female. And if you watch, and if you read Nature journal, they're a highly respected science journal, and they wrote that the idea that science can make definitive conclusions about a person's sex or gender is fundamentally flawed.
But
and they actually pointed to the IOC.
When you're born in a hospital, they can tell you whether you're male or female. They have those definitions.
And that's exactly what Caster Semenya's mother says.
Right.
When she was born, I was told, this is a girl. We looked at her, we saw her, we saw a woman. So for now, for her daughter, imagine this was your own daughter. For her daughter to be subjected to a panel of experts 100 worlds away, a gynecologist, an endocrinologist, a psychologist, an expert in internal medicine, another expert on gender, transgender issues. These are the people who were sitting there and deciding whether Caster Semenya is a girl or is a man or a woman. And that took them weeks. Her mother knew from day one who and what she was.
But you know what? I absolutely feel like the decision is race neutral. Because if we think about Lance Armstrong, he was subjected to all kinds of tests because when they thought about his performance being abnormal. So I don't think she was singled out based on her race.
No, but Lance Armstrong was doping. And
he was doping, but
that was natural.
That's after they found out he was
cheated.
doping.
Unlike Lance Armstrong, Caster Semenya has never cheated, and she has never used performance-enhancing drugs.
Right,
so there is a huge difference there.
I agree, but my point is that it was because of his performance. That was the reason why they subjected him to actually go through the test in the first place.
The same thing for Semenya as well. Well, this conversation is just getting started, and you can join in on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our handle on all three is @VOA Our Voices. You can also send us a message on WhatsApp. That number is on your screen.
The Women's FIFA World Cup is underway, and it has kicked off a conversation of equal pay in women's professional sports. We're going to discuss that after the break, but first, here's what some of you had to say about women in sport. We'll be right back.
I think Caster Semenya did well after, considering she was out of action for a year. She did considerably well, even after the stories about her not competing because of the gender issues. I think she did exceptionally well, huh? Yeah, that's what I think. She's done South Africa proud. Yeah.
For women in a whole, she's fighting for something beyond just track and field. She's fighting for women in sports, in society, and I respect her for that. I mean, I support her, and I mean, with the hard work and talents that she's been putting in the sport, and what she believes in and what she's dreaming for, I've got a lot of respect for her, and I really hope and pray that everything just goes from strength to strength for her.
It's actually amazing to see how big the sport is in the different African countries, because you don't realize, and the passion for the sport, I mean, they clap after every shot that you pot. It was very nice to see. And they also become, I mean, even you become sort of, they actually look up to the South African players. They treat you like you a superstar.
Our Voices, we're talking about the news and issues you're talking about.
Sharing stories of development and growth across Africa,
around the world, and in our lives.
Topics that inform, empower,
and change the rules.
It's time for Our Voices.
With me, Haiti Adams Fitzpatrick.
And Hadiza Kiari.
And Ayen Bior.
And Orion Itangi Shaka.
Join us on Facebook at VOA Our Voices.
It's time for Our Voices.
Unmute our voices. Welcome back. Nigeria's women's football team, the Super Falcons, dominate the African Women's Championship, winning 9 out of 11 recognized titles. But the players complain of low salaries, delayed paychecks, and being treated as second-class players to men's team. As Timothy Obiezo reports from Abuja.
31-year-old Tochukwu Oluwahi is Nigeria's #1 goalkeeper on the women's national team, the Super Falcons. They've won almost every African women's championship since 1991, 9 out of 11 recognized titles. Despite their record, she and her teammates say they are too often overlooked and underpaid.
We are the people, bringing glory to the land. So they should look into female. They should try and, concentrate more on female and leave the boys. The boys are earning more than the girls.
Nigeria's women's national team depends on government funding, but players say their bonuses are less than a third of the payout for the men's national team, the Super Eagles, who have won 3 African titles. Nigeria's sports ministry says while public demand and corporate sponsorship affect salaries, they have improved on the women's team.
I know what it used to be for the Falcon in terms of remuneration after a game, but this present administration, to be sincere with you, has lifted them from nowhere to where they are, which is a bit by far comfortable and better in African context.
Despite the challenges at home, Nigeria's Super Falcons are preparing for this summer's Women's World Cup in France.
Everything is good, all players are fit, no injuries at all, and that is a good start.
Nigeria's women's team has been to every World Cup since 1991, but only once made it to the quarterfinals. Timothy Obiezo for VOA News, Abuja.
I think this is so cool and really inspiring to see, because when it comes to sports, I think Nigeria really is setting an amazing standard for other women's sports teams. And I think the US women's soccer team also did the same thing. I mean, when they started this conversation, when they sued for equal pay, I think it sort of gave others the courage in their home countries to also stand up and say, look, if they can do it, so can we. And I think Nigeria is really leading on the continent in that.
Is behind us, right behind us.
The thing is, they win, and what they're saying, the U.S. women's team, the South Africans, they're saying, and we all know the South African women are winning, the men are not.
Right. Haiti, you're right. Compensation remains the biggest challenges for women athletes as well as men, and it's no wonder that we're having a brown drain, people moving to greener pastures. It is not a hidden fact that Arab Gulf countries like Bahrain and Qatar are actually trying to steal all of our players, and would you even blame them? The issue of runners switching allegiance towards your countries, it's not really their fault. I mean, I would do the same thing. It boils down to equal pay. If you can't pay me right, why not?
But the gap is so significant, and it's not even just equal pay. I was shocked to learn that the Jamaican team, who is also going to the Women's World Cup, had to fundraise to get money to go to the World Cup. And at the same time, they couldn't even afford their own soccer cleats or jackets when they were training in the cold. I mean, that is just unheard of. This is a world-class team that can't afford to buy their own soccer shoes.
It's unacceptable.
It's just the South African women's soccer team, they're broke. And that kind of, but I also wonder too whether we have to recognize the rules of the game and who makes them and who owns the game. The Women's World Cup 4 years ago in Vancouver brought in about $73 million of which the women got 13% as the share of that. The 2010 Men's World Cup in South Africa made $4 billion. 9% of that went to the male players. So if you look at it in those terms, the women are getting a greater share, but it's about revenue. Who brings in the most revenue? And when you look at the business of sport, which really plays by the rules of the business of entertainment, it's about the revenue that you bring in. Right now, men own the game. I'm not saying that should not change or that it should be the same in every sport, but when we talk about pay parity, should the same rules that apply in an ordinary workplace apply to the sports, where it's really about how many seats you fill and revenue?
Speaking of the workplace, I look at sport as a job, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm thinking about it as a job, I'm thinking, okay, what if I get pregnant? And when I look at the women who get pregnant and have to stop working, we've been hearing in the news lately about how they get pay cuts, how they don't get maternity leave, how they have to struggle.
Or if you're Nike and you treat pregnancy like
Nike, we saw it in the recent headlines, actually. Alicia Montano, when she said, Nike told me to dream big, to dream crazy until I wanted a baby.
And instead they treated pregnancy like it's an injury.
Yeah, she said Nike
ridiculous.
told me to dream crazy until I wanted a baby. So since then, though, I'm glad to see that Nike actually came and corrected that through
And
their
to your point,
and remember,
FIFA
just before we move on, just with Nike, what you have to realize is that these female athletes are making money for you.
Right.
Nike is making money off of their celebrity, and so they should be compensated. And getting pregnant, women get pregnant. Like we all know this.
In the last men's circle in 2018, the World Cup champion France earned 38 million from FIFA. This is the men, by the way. While the Women's World Cup cycle of 2015, United States got 2 million. Just check out the gap. That is just unheard of.
I think no matter what the rules are, women athletes, they especially in Africa, it's about national pride too. Our athletes should not be, and our players should not be going broke.
But you also see the gap within countries. Like if you look at the World Cup since it started, only Western nations have won, with the exception of Japan in, I believe it was 2011. But it's only been richer nations who have won, and so that really begs the question. I mean, why aren't these poorer nations winning? And I think it's because they don't have the same resources.
They don't have the same level of competition.
That's exactly right.
We need more competition on the continent and play more, compete more, and maybe then we'll earn more.
That's exactly right. And also have governments support them, because you find in a situation where governments are not allocating money to these very talented players.
Right.
They're not sending them to the Olympics, but we have very talented players on the continent, but because of finances, governments really, government needs to really step in.
Yeah. We have spent the show talking about African women who have made it to the highest echelons of the sports world. But after this short break, we introduce you to up-and-coming athletes that are already making waves in their field. We'll be right back.
This is a country that I chose to become a citizen. I didn't have to become a citizen. I chose to become a citizen.
I feel like America gave me an opportunity to pursue my passion as an artist.
I really believe that clean eating is a way to a more successful life, or a happier life, if you want to put it that way.
One of the things that helps me wake up every morning is doing better, being better.
We grew up poor, and so I'm always focused on helping the working class be able to have a more comfortable lifestyle.
I'm passionate about doing justice every day. I oftentimes say that justice is a verb, not a noun. You know, I believe in action and moving the ball forward.
Welcome back. Each week we feature African women who are becoming champions of change around the world, and today we highlight women who are winning on and off the field in our segment called Women to Watch.
Now, if you thought football was a boys-only sport, this next woman to watch is ready to prove you wrong. And in fact, dozens of teenage girls in Cameroon are defying stereotypes that discourage them from becoming professional football players, a profession that is considered too masculine for women. Well, meet 17-year-old Gaëlle Acheri, the captain of the Rails Football Academy in Cameroon. She says football allows her to express herself and has given her the confidence to take control of any situation on the field. She one day hopes to play professionally. And by the way, the Rails Football Academy that she plays for was founded by Cameroonian women's professional footballer Raissa Feggio. About 80 girls aged 5 to 16 are part of the program, which helps them develop the confidence to become strong professional football players.
And that's why I love football. It really builds character.
Right. Confidence.
And you can see diversity in football, you know, and in sports in general.
That's definitely a woman to watch.
And it's a women-to-women support effort.
Yeah,
so I
it's
like
fantastic.
I like that.
Well, it only took 26 seconds and 23 milliseconds for this woman to watch to make history. That's how fast track and field runner Ayen completed the women's 600-meter indoor dash in New York earlier this year. That time resulted in 4 new significant marks. Mo set a record for the 600-meter high school national record, the American record, the under-18 record, and world junior record. Mo, whose parents are from South Sudan, lives and trains in New Jersey, but says she has her sights set for the Olympics, so watch out for her, ladies.
Oh, yeah.
I'm having horrible flashbacks of how bad at sport I was, but I'm so excited about.
You didn't know how to run?
I don't know how to run. I couldn't throw. I couldn't just I'm one of those. Nobody ever chose me to be on their team.
Kenyans and South Sudanese. You guys are just. Sorry. I would have to bow down to you guys. Kenyan.
Who do you think deserves a shout out? Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices and tell us who you think is a woman to watch in sports. Be sure to watch VOA Our Voices on the VOA website, where you can find the world's top news stories.
We leave you with a quote from Saray and Khumalo, the first Black African woman to climb Mount Everest. She used her voice to say,
It is a humbling title. It is an opportunity, but I'm very much aware and cognizant of the fact that it comes with a lot of responsibilities. But it's almost, I feel like saying it's damn about time, that we also got a seat at the table. The mountain was first summited in 1953. What have we been waiting for? And I'm hoping that young climbers come after me and just make it the norm.
Well, congratulations to her. Some people are climbing actual mountains and some of us have figurative mountains. But whatever the case is, we congratulate her. And also, we want to wish good luck to the African women who are going to the World Cup.
And of course, Burundi for making it to the African Cup of Nations for the first time.
Congratulations.
And I see you have your Burundi.
Make me proud.
Handshake.
Yes, handshake.
It's not the first time for you guys, but it's the first time for the South Africans.
No, it's not our first time.
It's not the first time. I know. Make us proud. Make us proud. Someone's got to.
Congratulations.
All right. Well, that's our final word for this week. And on behalf of the Voice of America and along with my colleagues, thanks for tuning into our voices. Good day.
On June 3rd, Switzerland's Federal Supreme Court temporarily blocked new IAAF rules that restrict testosterone levels in female runners. This means that Semenya can continue competing without using medication to lower her testosterone levels. The Swiss ruling is temporary and will be in effect until June 25th.